President Reagan receiving the applause for his third State of the Union message. On Sunday night, Mr. Reagan will deliver a 5-minute speech from the Oval Office disclosing his political plans, and it would astonish most people if he said he would not run. His campaign organization is already tooling up. It's raised millions of dollars. His aides expect him to run. In fact, earlier today, when there was a rumor flashing around Wall Street that he would not run, the White House hastily denied it. So everyone expects him on Sunday to announce that he will be a candidate, and thus tonight's speech is a key political document. To analyze and comment on the President's speech, we'll be joined momentarily from the Capitol by Judy Woodruff and two key leaders of the House of Representatives. First, we turn to Norman Ornstein, political scientist, co-director of the Congress project of the American Enterprise Institute, and he is also the political editor of the public television series The Lawmakers. Norm, what did you think of the reception? You've watched it many times now that Congress gave the President for this State of the Union.
There was much more sustained applause than we normally see, although some of it clearly was a little bit manufactured. When last year, of course, the Democrats manufactured tremendous applause at an embarrassing point for the President.
Which is why we're told, incidentally, they didn't distribute texts in advance, at least to all the members this year.
And which greatly discomfited the Democrats this time. But when the President said we have to do something about the deficits this time, the Democrats joined in great applause. And for 2 or 3 minutes, we saw a little partisan competition over applause. But most of it, I think, was genuine and very enthusiastic.
Was that applause, or was that ironic and slightly jeering when the Democrats were making all the noise about the deficit?
Well, that was clearly ironic, as it was ironic a couple of minutes later when the President directed his Treasury Secretary to come up with a tax plan and submit it by December 1984 after the election. Everybody laughed.
Was the warmth, which was evident in the good nature in the chamber, to me at least this evening,
yes,
was that in any way connected with the way Congress reads the fact that Mr. Reagan's popularity has been rising in the opinion polls?
Oh, I think certainly they're not going to give a president who is popular and is growing in popularity and who's riding high at this point a rough reception. It would reflect badly on them. It's also, though, partly the tone of this speech. He was very nice. He did not knock Congress, and even when he called for an item veto, which is clearly line item veto, which would take power away from Congress where it's nearest and dearest to them, he didn't say it's because you guys have been irresponsible and are spending us out of existence. He cushioned it in much nicer tones, so they responded in kind, I think.
So what did you think of the speech itself, of the content of the speech, as compared with his other State of the Union messages?
Well, we're clearly seeing the themes that Ronald Reagan is going to lay out in the 1984 campaign. America's back. We're back on the right track. We're moving ahead. Look at how wonderfully well the economy is doing. We've taken inflation down dramatically. Unemployment's a terrible problem, and we feel very strongly about it. We're going to do something about it. Education, look what we've done here. And we're moving forward into new frontiers, the space program, environmentalism, something I care about deeply. He's setting out themes. He's trying to counter the attacks that will be made on him about being unfair, about being a warmonger, about not caring about the environment. In that sense, it was a different speech from his earlier ones. But there's been an evolution, I think, over the last few speeches. The first one was a very combative speech laying out his program. The second one was on the new federalism and was almost a philosophical speech. Last year, he went back to the traditional State of the Union, which was almost entirely the budget. This time, he barely mentioned
the laundry list of what he wanted.
And the laundry list of what he wanted. This time, he mentioned the budget, didn't say anything specific about it, and instead dealt with the global issues, and it really was a speech laying out the campaign of 1984.
How about delivery? It seemed to me that Mr. Reagan, who's usually so very, very smooth in his delivery, was hesitating a few times and stumbling a little bit.
He stumbled quite a bit. He mispronounced words. At one point, when he wanted to say progress is what we want, he said Congress does what we want, which brought another round of applause. He missed words. He missed lines. I don't know whether he had a faulty teleprompter or simply a technical problem, but it was not one of his best speeches in terms of delivery.
To go back to the thing which you mentioned, where he challenged the prerogatives of Congress, particularly in the line-item veto, in your view, is there any likelihood he would get that from this Congress?
there isn't a chance in the world that he'll get it from this Congress. But I think what he wants to do, and will do...
Just tell us what that would mean to the Congress if he got that.
The basis of Congress's power is the power of the purse. It's their right to pass legislation in whatever form they please, and the president either has to accept it in whole or veto it in whole. And of course, they can put together a number of things that he absolutely wants with a few small things that he might not like. To give him the ability to line-item veto would mean that he could pick and choose among those items, and it would destroy their power, or at least the basis of a lot of their power. A number of states do have it, but governors have it, but states, of course, are different. It's not going to happen, but it's going to be another campaign theme. And while Ronald Reagan wasn't combative tonight, I'm sure he's going to be out on the campaign trail saying, don't blame me for the deficits, blame Congress for taxing and taxing and spending, and if you only gave me this power, I'd have the courage to make those tough decisions.
How much in a State of the Union, in normal years, when it isn't an election year, is the president any longer in modern times with television talking to the members of Congress in front of him, and how much is he talking to the country at large?
Oh, I think clearly in this speech he was talking to the country at large. There were just a couple of instances where he made references to Congress. He's certainly knows the Congress is there, and I think that's one of the reasons why he was particularly conciliatory in his tone. But this is a speech to the nation, and as we said earlier, it's a speech laying out what he's going to do in 1984. If there's any doubt about him not running again, towards the end of the speech where he was talking about Americans, he said, we aren't going to stop in the middle of the job, and I think he was referring to himself as well.
Mm-hmm. On some of the substantive parts of the speech, how do you think that the Congress is going to react to the permanent space station, for example?
There'll be some skepticism there, although that will play well at home. NASA and the space program have not been terribly popular in recent years, and when we have a budget problem, especially, where they're trying to cut back other programs, he's proposing something that is going to cost a good deal of money. He talks about private sector and involvement in other countries, but it's going to be a substantial amount of money, and I think you will see this certainly stretched out over many more years than he would like.
Yeah.
But it's symbolic. I think that's what he wants it to be.
We're hooked up with Judy Woodruff, who's on the Hill. Judy?
Yes, I just wondered, Norm, what do you think about the president's proposal for this bipartisan commission or group to attack the deficit? Do you think that that stands any real chance of accomplishing anything?
Oh, I suspect. Of course, this has been bandied about for a long, long time. And there has been an expectation that he would do this, and there was some talk that he wouldn't. I think the Democrats are going to view it with great skepticism. They see the deficit as an issue that they can use now, something that can put them on the initiative and on the offensive. And a lot of issues, they're on the defensive. And I don't think they're going to give it up too easily. They can't deny the president entirely. But as with the Social Security issue, where they agreed before the 1982 election to some sort of commission, but used it as a campaign issue with nothing happening until afterwards, I suspect we're going to see that this time around. And certainly his specific notions of what to do for a down payment on the deficit that would bring this group together are things that have been rejected by Congress, and they're not likely to accept them wholeheartedly now.
I just wonder what the incentive would be for the Democrats to cooperate with the president, especially in an election year.
Their only incentive is to avoid being put on the defensive again and to make it look as if they're not cooperating to do something about the deficit. But it'll be nothing more than token, I would guess.
So, coming to the conclusion here, as obviously our congressional leaders are not going to be able to make it from the House, probably slowed up by the security in the Capitol. Make it to you, Judy. I'm awfully sorry. How would you rate this as a political launching of a political campaign and as a message to Congress?
I think basically it was a very impressive opening for the campaign. This president has a lot of good things to run on. He's got positive elements to run on. He has managed, I think, in the speech to put things in a way that counter the arguments that will be made by his opponents. It means, I think, that the Democrats are going to have a difficult time raising issues and gaining the initiative and putting Ronald Reagan on the defensive. He knows where his weaknesses might be, and he's managed in a rather masterful way to counter them right off the bat.
Well, Norman Ornstein, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Judy, thank you.
And good night.
And good night. That is the end of this special edition. We will be back at the normal time with our news hour tomorrow night. Thank you for watching. I'm Robert MacNeil. Good night.
The MacNeil-Lehrer News Hour is funded by AT&T, reaching out in new directions.